Discover the incredible journey of a hidden Qing Dynasty brothel boy. Life-changing triumphs explode as one boy's hidden heritage is unveiled. Tommy stood in his grandmother's cramped apartment, sunlight streaming through the small window, catching dust motes dancing in the air. The scent of his grandmother's famous apple pie wafted from the kitchen, a sweet reminder of her love. But today, his heart was heavy, and the weight of being an orphan shadowed him. His grandmother had been his rock, her sacrifices always whispered in the warmth of her embrace. Just last year, she pulled him close, saying, "Dream big, Tommy. You can conquer anything." Inspiring words, but now without her father or mother, he felt the world was a little darker as he rummaged through old family belongings. He uncovered faded boxes that held whispers of the past. He brushed off a dust-covered letter that had been tucked inside an old diary. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but as he read, his heart pounded. It wasn't just any letter. It traced his lineage back to a forbidden love story from the Qing Dynasty. He was tied to a brothel boy. His lips quivered as he processed the revelation. Could it be true? Thoughts raced through his mind, each one heavier than the last. Do people like me really exist? He whispered to himself, feeling both special and embarrassed. The playground whispers at school cut deep. His classmates were merciless, mocking what they didn't understand. When they learned about his family history, the giggles and teasing only intensified. He felt like he was staring through a glass wall, watching a world that didn't want him. What would his grandmother think? He remembered her gentle words as he curled into bed that night. "You're worth just as much as anyone else, Tommy. Stand tall." He longed to embrace her wisdom while grappling with the stares and judgment. The weight of economic struggles weighed heavily too. At lunch, other kids devoured their meals while he could only dream of a full plate. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days stretched into weeks, whispers about Tommy's heritage spread like wildfire. Some classmates found bravery in their curiosity, asking questions, their eyes wide with interest. Others taunted him, branding him as different. Struggling between shame and pride, Tommy began to feel a renewed spirit. His grandmother's consistent support shone brighter. It became his armor against ridicule. Determined, Tommy resolved to share his story. No longer would he hide. He practiced every morning in front of the mirror, envisioning triumph as he prepared for a school presentation that could lift his burden. Would they cheer him on, or would the crowd turn cold? As he stood before an audience of classmates and community members, his heart thundered, drowning out doubts. Would this moment transform him? Could Tommy redefine what his heritage meant? And would it bring his community together? Uncertainty swirled in the air, igniting an intense flame within him. The crowd, eyes trained on him, awaited his words, ready to hear a life-changing truth that promised to shake the very foundations of understanding and acceptance in the neighborhood, bringing forth an uncertain yet hopeful future. Tommy took a deep breath, the air thick with apprehension and anticipation. He looked out at the expectant faces, some filled with genuine interest, others with skepticism. As he stood there, he recalled all those moments of laughter and teasing. A lump formed in his throat, but he wasn't going to let fear choke his voice. He remembered his grandmother, her unwavering belief in him, her spirit now surging through him like a river of strength. "Hi, everyone. My name is Tommy," he began. His voice shaky but determined. He felt the weight of the eyes on him, scrutinizing, judging, but he pressed on. "Today I want to share something about who I really am. My family, it's not what you think. I found out I'm linked to a story of love and sorrow from the Qing Dynasty. A boy much like me who faced challenges just like I do today." A murmur rippled through the audience. Curiosity sparked in some, while others shifted in their seats, unsure of how to respond. I learned that this boy had dreams too, big dreams that were often suppressed. He lived in a world that didn't accept him, much like how I feel sometimes. Tommy's voice grew stronger as he spoke, memories of his grandmother's words fueling his resolve. But he also fought against the odds, and his spirit lives in me. Tears pooled in the corners of his eyes. When I read his story, I felt a connection. I realized that we're not defined by where we come from but by the courage we hold inside. It's okay to be different, it's what makes us who we are. A boy near the front smirked at the mention of being different, drawing a tight knot in Tommy's stomach, but he swallowed hard. His worries began to fade as he spoke faster, the momentum building within him. I've been bullied and laughed at, but I'm here today, standing tall, showing that we all have a heritage worth celebrating. He glanced at his classmates. Beneath the teasing, he saw shadows of longing. Longing for acceptance, for connection. One girl in the back, typically silent, nodded slowly, the corners of her mouth lifting. She raised a hand. That's kinda brave, Tommy. Thank you for sharing. The warmth in her voice swept over Tommy like a comforting blanket. Moments later, he saw other hands rise, offering support and interest rather than mockery. A wave of hope flushed through him. I want to create a place where everyone feels accepted. A community where we learn from each other no matter the past. As his words flowed, he could feel emotions rippling through the room. A palpable shift in the atmosphere. He had the courage to tell his story, and now he was sparking something among his peers. Understanding. When he finished, the applause that followed felt electric, resonating deep inside him. It wasn't just his victory. It was a collective realization, it was a bridge opening between them all. As he stepped off the improvised stage, his heart raced. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of healing, not just for him but for everyone. Just as he began to feel the thrill of triumph, he caught a glimpse of a familiar face lurking at the back, the person whom he never expected to see here. A feeling of foreboding settled in his chest. What did it mean for his newfound confidence? Had he stirred something in the shadows? Tommy's heart raced. Why were they here? What would they say? He clenched his fists, bracing himself for whatever might come next. Had he truly begun to conquer his journey? Or was this just the start of another challenge? Tommy's gaze locked onto the figure at the back of the room. A mix of recognition and dread washed over him like icy water. It was Derek, the boy from his past who had made his life a living nightmare. The laughter that used to echo in hallways and classrooms flashed in his mind. Memories of hurtful words and mocking ridicule pierced through the jubilation of his speech, leaving shadows where there had been light. Derek leaned against the wall, arms crossed defiantly. The smirk on his face was a challenge, a taunt that whispered, "You're still that same insecure kid. Don't get too comfortable." Tommy swallowed hard, the thrill of triumph evaporating like mist in the morning sun. He took a step back, feeling small again. Had he really made a difference with his words? Or was all of this just an illusion, a fleeting moment before reality crashed down? Just as he was about to look away, Derek's lips curled, and Tommy felt a rush of anger swell inside him. Why should he let this bully dampen his spirit? Taking a deep breath, Tommy forced himself to stand tall and confront the boy who had haunted him for so long. He could feel his classmates moving, their attention oscillating between him and Derek. The tension could be sliced with a knife. Then, to his surprise, a girl from the front row shouted, "Hey, Derek, don't you have something better to do than spoil other people's moments?" This stirred the crowd. Encouraged by her bravery, murmurs of agreement erupted. Tommy felt a spark of warmth radiate from that group of supportive faces. Derek shifted uncomfortably, caught off guard. The energy that had once seemed so intimidating seemed to wane. But he took a step forward, eyes narrowing. "And what are you, Tommy? Just another nobody trying to be special?" Newsflash. It won't work. Tommy's heart pounded. He searched for the words, but a simmering rage left him speechless for a moment, enough to feel like he was fighting against the flow of his own thoughts. Then he realized what he needed to say. It wasn't about being good enough for Derek or anyone else. "I am not a nobody," he said, finally finding his voice. I am someone with a story. I'm here to share it, and I know I'm not alone. The murmurs in the audience grew more intense, voices lifting in encouragement. Derek's confidence seemed to waver, and he hesitated. Tommy could see the pride slipping away, the facade cracking. Maybe he wasn't the powerful force he thought he was after all. Maybe he was just a scared kid clinging to the remnants of a bitter past. As the crowd buzzed with energy, someone called out, "Let us hear Weest from Tommy." The moment felt pivotal, electric. He was ready to push forward, to share more about the boy from the Qing Dynasty who had inspired him. It was time for healing, not just for himself but for everyone. But in that fleeting moment of courage, an unexpected sound broke through the shrieking of the fire alarm. The lights flickered. Panic scattered across the room like a gust of wind dispersing autumn leaves. Before Tommy could process what was happening, Derek darted towards the door, but not before casting one last look Tommy's way, a mix of confusion and maybe, just maybe, reconciliation. Tommy, still processing the conflict, felt the urgency rising in his chest. They needed to get out of the building, but this moment felt fraught with more than just chaos. He was torn between the tumult of the crowd and wanting to confront Derek one last time. Was this the last he would see of the boy who had once been his greatest tormentor? Or could there still be a chance to turn this moment around, to make it meaningful? With the alarm blaring, Tommy stood at the crossroads of his journey, his heart racing. What awaited him outside? Would he find his strength or lose it all amidst the chaos? Tommy's mind raced as students jostled for the exits, panic rippling through the crowd like a wave crashing on the shore. The fire alarm's wailing echoed in his ears, blending with the chaos of feet pounding on the floor. Heart still pounding, he fought against the tide of bodies, each moment stretching painfully as he glanced back to see if Derek was still there. But in the throng, the familiar face vanished. A part of Tommy felt keenly aware of how quickly things could change. Just minutes ago, he had stood with his classmates, poised to share his story, and now he felt a surge of desperation wash over him. Would he lose this chance to say everything that had been building inside him for so long? He turned to one of the students near him, a girl with dark hair and wide eyes. "Did you see where Derek went?" he shouted over the din. She shook her head, fear tightening her voice, and unsuccessfully attempted to push through the crowd. For a moment, they were locked in an unspoken understanding. They were all scared, uncertain. "Keep moving," someone yelled from the front, urging the mass toward the exit. Tommy could see the bright light that spilled out, a stark contrast to the flickering lights and oppressive tension inside. That light felt like hope, but the shadows of dread lingered behind him. He took a deep breath and propelled himself forward, weaving through the chaos, determined to reach that beacon. But with each step, the urgency to confront Derek gnawed at him. What words would he say? Would he even get the chance? Emerging through the doorway, Tommy felt the cool air hit his face. It was a relief after the sweating, enclosed space. Students gathered outside, huddled in groups while teachers tried to maintain order, assuring everyone it was just a drill or a false alarm. Yet Tommy barely heard their words. His focus was elsewhere. When he turned, scanning the crowd in hopes of seeing Derek again, his heart sank. The boy who had always cast a shadow loomed larger in his mind than in reality. All the bravado that Derek had displayed inside the school seemed to diminish now, a mere memory whispering from the doorway he had just exited. But longing for closure pulled at him. "Tommy," a voice called. It was the girl from before, waving him over. "I think they're letting us back in soon." He managed a nod, but the thoughts still swirled. What if Derek was feeling alone out here too? Did the alarm shake something loose for him as it had for Tommy? The moment had slipped through his fingers, but perhaps it wasn't he completely gone. "Come on, let us stay together," she said, sensing his turmoil. "Yeah, okay." As they gathered with others, the fire alarm muting into the background, Tommy noticed a small group forming, the energy shifting back into something more hopeful. People were talking, sharing their thoughts about what had just happened. In that instant, the boy from the Qing Dynasty rushed back into Tommy's mind, fearful and lost, yet resilient in the face of adversity. "I want to talk about my story when things settle down," he murmured, mostly to himself, but the girl nodded, and others turned to him, curiosity igniting in their expressions. This was it. There was still time. The flood of emotion welled up, turning dread into hope. The moment was still alive, waiting for him to seize it. But just as Tommy felt his strength growing, he spotted a familiar figure lingering at the far edge of the gathering derrick, standing still as a statue, isolated from everyone. Was he regretting his words? Did he want to hear more? This was Tommy's chance. The moment had transformed, but into what, an opportunity or another heartache? With his heart in his throat, Tommy took a step forward, every nerve alive with possibility. Would he challenge the past? Or would he find a way to understand it? Tommy took a deep breath and stepped away from the crowd. Every instinct told him to run back to safety, to hide within the familiar faces of his classmates. But courage surged through him, a soft whisper urging him closer to Derek. His feet carried him across the grass, each step feeling heavier than the last. When he was finally close enough to see Derek's face, he noticed the shadows beneath his eyes. The way his posture suggested he was ready to vanish into thin air. "Hey!" Tommy called softly, nervousness twirling in his stomach. Derek turned slowly, his expression unreadable. There was a flicker of something, fear, shame, before his guard went back up, slipping into that role of indifference he wore like armor. "What do you want?" Tommy felt his heart race. The previous anger and frustration faded, replaced by a deep empathy. He could see through the bravado now, and it hurt. "I wanted to know if you're okay with everything that happened. Why do you care?" Derek shot back, crossing his arms. "It's not just about you," Tommy replied, surprised by the strength in his own voice. "We're all trying to make sense of things. I just thought maybe we could talk." Derek shifted his weight, avoiding Tommy's gaze, a silent war raging in his mind. "Talk?" He scoffed, but the flicker in his eyes betrayed him. "About what? How your life's perfect while mine's a mess." "No," Tommy said, shaking his head. "It's not perfect. I just have my own battles that I deal with just like you. I thought maybe we both could share our stories." Something softened in Derek's expression. The tension broke a bit, revealing vulnerability beneath the anger. He let out a breath, almost humorless. "You think everyone wants to hear my story?" "I do," Tommy insisted. "If you want to share, that is." For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Around them, the crowd quieted. Students were waiting, eyes glancing back and forth, sensing something was shifting in the air. "Why would you care?" Derek finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Because we're all struggling with something," Tommy said, his heart thumping. "And I can't be the only one hoping to connect and find some understanding. Alone, it's all just too heavy." Derek glanced at the ground, as if trying to bury his thoughts there. "You think that's enough? Just talking?" Tommy felt a surge of realization wash over him. "I think it's a start. It's better than pretending we don't see each other." The crack in Derek's armor widened. Uncertainty flickered in his eyes, battles raging beneath the surface. But something else appeared too. "Maybe hope?" "Okay," Derek said finally, the word hanging between them like a bridge. Maybe I could try talking." Tommy couldn't contain a smile, a rush of warmth flooding his chest at the thought of reaching across that divide, the relief that came with the possibility of understanding. But just as he opened his mouth to respond, a voice broke through the moment. "Tommy, are we heading back inside?" It was the girl from earlier, her eyes darting between them with concern. Tommy glanced back to Derek, a question in his gaze. Would he really open up? "Just a second," Tommy replied, turning back to Derek, urgency sparking in his chest. They had crossed a line, but the real journey was just beginning. What would they discover about one another, and maybe even about themselves? As the urgency of returning to class loomed, Tommy felt his heart racing with anticipation. What stories would emerge? What transformations awaited them both in the sharing of their truths? And in that moment, with the world pressing in from all sides, Tommy understood they were standing on the edge of something monumental. The air crackled with possibility. Would they take the plunge together? The weight of Derek's hesitation hung in the air like an unopened book, full of secrets waiting to be discovered. Tommy could see it in his eyes, the flickering flame of uncertainty battling against the walls he had built so meticulously. With a feeling both tender and raw, Tommy leaned in closer, hoping to bridge that gap. "Look," he said gently, "I know I can't understand everything you're going through, but you're not alone in this. I'm here. Just tell me what you're feeling." Derek's shoulders rigidly relaxed for the briefest of moments, tension tapping away at the edges of the emotional fortress he had constructed. For the first time, he allowed himself to meet Tommy's gaze. There was a shadow of doubt in his eyes, but beneath it lay something else, a flicker of raw, unfiltered emotion. "Why would you even want to bother?" Derek whispered, the defiance in his voice fading. "It's not like I have any stories worth telling." Tommy shook his head vigorously. "You don't know that. Everyone has a story. Yours matters just as much as mine. You've been fighting a battle all your own, and it deserves to be heard." The silence grew long as the world around them faded. The buzzing voices of their classmates felt distant, almost like remnants from another life. Tommy could see confusion, anger, and a deep-seated sadness bubbling beneath the surface of Derek's facade. Derek faltered, struggling to voice the swirling chaos inside him. "I don't want to be a burden. People expect me to be strong. They act like I'm just a problem." "That's not true," Tommy countered, his heart pounding in his chest. "You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't owe anyone anything. It's okay to feel lost sometimes. It doesn't define you." Derek's expression broke momentarily, a flash of vulnerability breaking through. The realization that he wasn't attempting this alone sent a surge of warmth through Tommy. This vulnerable side was a breath of fresh air, a stark contrast to the bravado Derek usually projected. "Maybe I'm just so tired of pretending. Tired of wanting to be someone I'm not," Derek confessed, each word spilling out like a long-held secret in desperate need of release. "That's exactly it," Tommy replied softly. "You don't have to pretend anymore. Letting it out can be the first step toward healing." Derek's breath caught, and for a moment, he was lost in thought. Tommy held his gaze, willing him to understand that there was hope in vulnerability, strength in honesty. "What if I say something stupid? Or what if it doesn't help?" Derek asked, uncertainty creeping back in. "Then we'll figure it out together. No judgment here, just understanding," Tommy reassured. He could feel a deeper connection forming, a bond woven through their shared experiences, waiting to be explored. Just as Derek opened his mouth, preparing to share the weight he had been carrying, the girl from earlier called out again, this time with more urgency. "Tommy, we really need to go. Just a minute." Tommy shot back, his attention fully on Derek, determined not to let this moment slip away. Time felt like a cruel thief, threatening to rob them of a chance for genuine connection. "Look, we'll have to go back inside, but can we meet up later?" Tommy asked, his heart racing. "I want to hear your story, and I'm pretty sure others do too." Derek's eyes searched Tommy's face, looking for reassurance, a flicker of trust beginning to bloom. "You really want to meet?" he asked, the slightest tremor in his voice hinting at hope. "Yeah, definitely," Tommy replied, feeling a surge of determination swell within him. "I don't want this moment to be just a moment. I want to keep talking." As they exchanged tentative smiles, understanding began to unfold, the promise of a deeper friendship just within reach. But before they could settle into that warmth, Tommy stole a glance back at the girl anxiously waiting, and fear spiked anew. "What if we don't meet later?" Derek murmured, voice low but thick with doubt, as if the fragile connection might break any moment. Tommy took a deep breath. "Then I'll find you. We can't let this slip away. There's too much at stake." Stepping back as the crowd pressed forward, momentum shifting once again, Tommy felt the rush of uncertainty in the pit of his stomach. Determined to foster a bond that could weather any storm, he turned back to Derek for one last moment, resting on the edge of anticipation. Would their connection hold? What truths lay buried, waiting to be unearthed? And more importantly, could they find strength in each other when the world outside felt so overwhelming? The buzzing crowd around them pulled Tommy back to reality, the cacophony of laughter and chatter drowning out the fragile moment they had started to share. Derek's eyes held Tommy's for a second longer, as if searching for a measure of truth that might make the world outside feel a little less daunting. The fleeting connection bound them closer together even as the voices of their classmates shouted for attention. "Okay, we really have to go," the girl implored again, her voice cutting through the bubble of their conversation. Tommy felt the tightness in his chest, the anxiety of leaving, of losing this moment before it could even bloom. "Later, Derek." "Promise," he said quickly, his heart racing as he turned to walk away, but not before catching the slight nod from Derek. That small gesture filled him with a sense of possibility. Maybe they would meet again. Maybe this wasn't just a fleeting moment. As Tommy followed the girl back inside, the warmth from their conversation lingered. He could hardly focus on the clamor around him. Instead, visions of Derek loomed large in his mind, the doubts, the fears, and the courage that was just beginning to break through the surface. He felt a strange mix of excitement and trepidation about their potential connection. Inside the bustling hall, the atmosphere changed entirely. The weight of expectations, laughter, and lightness swarmed Tommy as he rejoined his friends. Yet, even amidst the chaos, his thoughts danced between the echoes of Derek's words and those unspoken feelings that hung in the air, waiting to crystallize into something real. For the next hour, Tommy tried to immerse himself back into normal conversations. Amid stories exchanged and jokes made, two things remained constant: the hollowness that filled his chest whenever the subject changed to relationships and the flicker of hope ignited deep within. After the event wound down and the crowd began to disperse, Tommy seized the chance for a moment of clarity. He slipped outside, seeking a breath of fresh air to calm the storm inside. But just as he stepped into the chill, he spotted Derek standing alone at the edge of the school ground, the fading sunlight casting long shadows around him. "Hey," Tommy called out, his resolve illuminating him like a beacon. Derek turned, surprise washing over his features, mingled with cautious hope. "I thought," Derek began, his voice trailing off, uncertainty flooding back. "Thought I wouldn't come?" Tommy finished for him, a smile breaking through the thick air. "I said I'd find you, didn't I?" Inside, he felt a flutter of triumph. This was the moment he had hoped for, a second chance to uncover the layers that shielded Derek. As he approached, he noticed the way Derek's shoulders slowly relaxed, as if the weight of the world was lifting just a bit. "What do you want to tell me?" Tommy asked, sensing now was the time. The crowd had thinned, and the world felt quieter, perfect for sharing the truths waiting to spill from Derek's heart. A hesitant breath escaped Derek's lips, and for the first time, Tommy felt the power of that unguarded moment. The story was about to unfold, something waiting to burst free. But just as Derek took a step forward, the reality loomed heavy. What if his words changed everything? Would they shift the delicate balance they had found? Tommy felt the tension lingering in the air, thick as fog, waiting to see if Derek would choose to step into the light or retreat back into silence. Could they really navigate this new path together, or was it destined to slip through their fingers again? Derek paused, his eyes wide, filled with something Tommy couldn't quite decipher. There was fear there, but also a glimmer of something else, hope, perhaps. The silence was heavy between them, a palpable weight that seemed to pull them closer even as it threatened to break them apart. Derek started, his voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid of the words that may shatter the moment. He licked his lips, glancing over Tommy's shoulder, studying the distance like it held an answer. But it was Tommy's gaze that kept him anchored in place. "Yeah." Tommy leaned in a bit, urging him on with that unyielding power of shared space and vulnerability. He felt his heart hammering against his ribs, a wild drum echoing hope and desperation. There was so much riding on the next words out of Derek's mouth. "I've wanted to say something for a while." Derek's eyes fell, and he kicked at a small stone, sending it skittering across the pavement. The small action felt like a devastating retreat, pulling Tommy's heart down with it. "Whatever it is, you can tell me," Tommy encouraged, trying to filter the anxious air with encouragement. "I'm here. I came because I want to know." Derek's face flushed, visible even in the dimming light. I've never really felt like I fit in anywhere. You know? But when I'm around you, it's different. It's like I don't know, he trailed off, but Tommy could see the glimmer in his eyes, the fight, the yearning. Like what? Tommy pressed gently, like there's a chance to be real. Derek finally looked up, and Tommy was taken aback by the intensity of his stare. I like you, Tommy. Really like you. Scares me, but it feels so good too. Tommy felt a rush of warmth overflow him. It was a confession that hung in the air, wrapping around them like a soft blanket, and every strand of doubt began to unravel. The wild pulses of worry faded, replaced with a raw excitement. I get that this is a lot. Derek interrupted, glancing back down at his shoes again, grounding himself. But the thought of not telling you was worse than risking everything. Derek. Tommy's voice was firm now, coaxing Derek's gaze back up. You don't have to be afraid. Me too. I like you too. For a moment, they stood there, suspended in a breathy silence as their hearts beat in unison. It felt like every complicated thread of their lives could finally weave together into something beautiful. But then Tommy's thoughts raced. What now? Would they really dare to try and navigate this? The question loomed, cold and heavy between them again. But beneath it all was that unbreakable flicker of hope. I mean it, he added, stepping closer, brushing lightly against Derek's arm. This moment, is it the start of something new? Derek swallowed hard, a mix of hope and trepidation dancing in his eyes. I just hope I don't mess this up, he said softly. Yeah. Well, Tommy smiled, feeling bold as the edges of their budding connection took shape. Maybe it's worth the risk? Derek nodded slowly, a small smile exploring his lips, igniting Tommy's heart further. But a nagging worry crept back in, weaving through the delight of their moment. Was it truly possible for them to build something? Or was this merely a beautiful moment that would drift away with the next breeze? The air thickened with possibilities unrolled before them, but Tommy held Derek's gaze. They had crossed over from uncertainty into possibility. The warmth that wrapped around them felt real, even as it danced dangerously close to the edge of fear. Let us take it one step at a time, Tommy suggested, feeling stronger in his convictions. Together? Derek bit his lip, his hopeful gaze never wavering. Together. But as they stood there, the light fading slowly, Tommy couldn't help but wonder if the fragile balance they'd reached could truly withstand the truths hidden in their pasts. Would they embrace the challenge? Or could buried secrets pull them apart before their journey ever began? Tommy pulled in a breath, trying to steady the whirlpool of emotions bubbling inside him. His heart soared, yet a part of him trembled at the uncertainty that lingered in the air. He stole a glance at Derek, whose expression had shifted from nervousness to a fragile mix of relief and hope. It was a vulnerable beauty, one that made Tommy's chest tighten with an overwhelming urge to protect that moment. Together it echoed in his mind, a mantra filled with promise but also with weight. The world around them continued to fade, streetlights flickered to life, casting a warm glow across the pavement, a sharp contrast to the storm of thoughts racing through Tommy's head. Let us make a pact, Tommy suggested suddenly, his voice stronger than he felt. No matter what happens, we talk. No hiding. No ghosts from the past coming back to haunt us. As he spoke, a spark lit in Derek's eyes, a sign of acknowledgement, perhaps a bond that felt a little more tangible. Derek nodded, the curve of his mouth lifting into a small smile. Deal. He shifted slightly, creating more space between them, but his body language revealed he was still leaning in, drawn to Tommy like a moth to a flame. The moment felt electric, intimate, yet fraught with the kind of rawness that made Tommy question everything once again. Derek had shared the most guarded piece of himself, and now, here they were, teetering on the edge of a new beginning. What if someone or something were to disrupt it? Hey, Tommy whispered, reaching out to tuck a loose strand of hair behind Derek's ear. The gentle gesture felt natural, yet it sent a rush of warmth through both of them. You're safe with me. I won't let anyone get in the way. Derek inhaled sharply, his gaze warming, and for a moment, everything felt so uncomplicated. Just two people daring to allow affection to bloom against the odds. But then the uninvited memories came creeping back, previous relationships that had broken, trust that had shattered. How could this possibly be different, right? I don't want to screw this up again, Derek murmured, his gaze dropping as the weight of his words settled. It was easy to forget he wasn't just a boy wishing for more. He was someone carrying the scars of disappointment and fear. Neither do I, Tommy said, feeling his heart clench at Derek's vulnerability. But we're here, together. If we keep talking, we can figure this out. The silence grew again, neither of them knowing how to bridge the gap from possibility to action. Just as that thought settled, a shout caught their attention. Nearby, a group of friends burst into laughter, their carefree spirits filled with summer's lingering warmth. A stark reminder that the world didn't pause for their revelations. They're loud, Derek said, his eyes darting toward the clamor. Tommy could see the brief flicker of annoyance crossing his expression, followed by an almost playful smirk. Yeah, but it reminds us life's still going on, right? Tommy said, trying to lighten the mood. Hey, let us go join them. We could use some fun. It doesn't have to be all serious. Derek considered it, uncertainty dancing in his expression. The idea buzzed in the air, tempting and terrifying all at once. I don't know, Tommy, what if things change? What if some of those friends don't get it? Tommy felt his resolve strengthen. That's okay. We're taking it one step at a time, remember? Besides, walking away from this won't change how we feel. Let us not let fear decide for us. With every word, the knot of anxiety in his own chest began to dissolve a little. Derek looked thoughtful, contemplating the offer, before he finally took a deep breath and let out a shaky laugh. All right, let us do it. Lead the way. As they started walking toward the laughter, Tommy could feel his pulse racing for different reasons now. There was excitement, anticipation, but also the lingering question. Could they navigate this fragile reality together? Or would the shadows of their past loom too large to overcome? And as they stepped into the light, Tommy couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning and the real journey lay ahead. Tommy stood at the edge of the crowd, heart pounding as the laughter and cheers of his classmates washed over him like a wave. He had faced down his past and spoken his truth, but now it felt like the real challenge was about to unfold. He glanced at Derek, who stood beside him, the weight of their recent revelations still palpable in the air. This moment wasn't just about acceptance. It was about forging a bond through shared vulnerabilities. As they moved through the throng of students, Tommy could feel a blend of excitement and trepidation. Would they be accepted not just for their pasts, but for who they were becoming together? The chatter thickened around them. Friends welcomed Tommy back into their fold, wearing smiles and laughter that were familiar yet new. He felt their warmth and acceptance seep into his heart, like sunshine piercing through clouds. Yet, a flicker of fear gnawed at him. What if they didn't fully understand the connection he was forming with Derek? We're here, he whispered to Derek, nudging him gently in the arm. Derek looked up, and the uncertain expression from earlier started to shift. A hesitant smile broke through the clouds of doubt. Yeah, he replied, a spark of hope igniting in his eyes. Feels kind of different. Huh? Tommy nodded. The atmosphere transformed around them as friendships intertwined, laughter ricocheting everywhere. He spotted the girl from earlier, the one who had encouraged him during his speech, waving him over. Tommy, and you brought Derek. Join us. She beamed, her voice full of excitement. The invitation felt like an embrace, warm and inviting. Looks like they're ready for some fun, Tommy said, feeling Derek's arm brush against his. It was a simple touch, but it sent a shudder of warmth through him, reminding him how far they had come side by side. They made their way toward the group. A circle of friends welcomed them, the air thick with camaraderie. Tommy felt tension ease as laughter erupted, with everyone settling into the rhythm of play. Let us play a game, one boy suggested, tossing a ball into the mix. The energy surged as classmates scattered, ready to join in. Think you can catch me? Tommy challenged Derek with a grin, heart racing not just from the thrill of the game but from the joy of connection. the feeling of belonging that had once seemed impossible. With a burst of laughter, they took off together, the previous layers of anxiety dissolving in the sheer joy of the moment. The two raced after the ball, a playful chase transforming into something deeper. It felt like the beginning of a friendship built on understanding, real honesty. As they circled back to the group, out of breath and laughing, Tommy caught a glimpse of Derek's unguarded smile. That smile was everything: hope, connection, promise. In this newfound bond, Tommy discovered strength not just in himself but in Derek too. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows on the ground, Tommy felt his heart swell with possibilities. Each laugh pouring from him was a step toward healing, a reminder that they were growing together. Families, pasts, insecurities, none of it had the same power anymore. This was a moment to celebrate, one that transcended their individual stories. Derek, one of their classmates, called, breaking Tommy's reverie. "Come join us for a group photo." Tommy turned to see Derek hovering on the edge again, uncertainty flickering in his expression. "Come on, let us capture this moment," Tommy urged, stepping closer. With a small nod, Derek stepped forward. As the group gathered, people jostling for positions, Tommy slid his hand casually into Derek's. The unspoken support flowed between them like an unbreakable thread. They stood together, shoulders brushing, heartbeats syncing as the camera flashed, capturing their joy. Tommy realized it wasn't just the moment of a photograph. They were crafting a future filled with hope, togetherness, and genuine understanding. This was the turning point, the beginning of a life unencumbered by the shadows of their past, defined by the courage to be seen and celebrating who they truly were. In that instant, all insecurity faded. Tommy embraced the thrill of now, eyes shining with laughter, realizing this connection could reshape everything. Whatever challenges loomed ahead, he would face them hand in hand with Derek. This was their story, a beautiful tapestry woven with courage, acceptance, and the promise of tomorrow. And as they stood together, hearts alight with possibilities, Tommy knew deep down that they were ready for whatever came next. Their journey was just beginning. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.